Hey everybody, Todd Crandell, the original sober triathlete, bringing you another Racing for Recovery podcast today. And I have a great guest, Miss Vicky Hamilton, has kindly decided to join us today. Vicky, how are you?
I'm doing good. It's top of the morning here in LA, but yeah.
Yeah. When you said you didn't want to do it early, that's why I was like, well, how about 9? And I guess early is 11 for you, right?
Well, I just don't like to do interviews before my brain is like fully functioning, and I need like an hour in the morning to like just clean up whatever wreckage happened the night before, so
Well,
yeah.
at least it's not the wreckage from drinking, which we're going to talk
Right.
about, right?
True that.
So here's just to let everybody know, Vicky is, she's been, I want to say you're a mentor of mine. I've learned a lot from you, but we're going to talk about sobriety. We're going to talk about some awesome rock and roll stories. We're going to talk about your business acumen and probably a lot of other things. So I want to start with this. Can you give us an idea of what your life would be like had you not left Fort Wayne, Indiana?
Well, I'd probably be married with 3.5 kids and driving them to the roller rink. I don't know. Actually, after I left there, they built Sweetwater there, which is like a mall of like sort of musical instruments and stuff. I think I'd probably be working there.
Okay. Before I have one other Fort Wayne story and we may come back to some other ones, but talk to us about your encounter with Bon Scott, because that happened while you were still in Fort Wayne, right?
Yeah. I went to see ACDC, and a friend of mine worked for Sunshine Promotions named Bob McCutcheon, who like has been a mentor all through my life. And when I got in a financial bind with Poison, he came on as my partner and like bailed me out. But he gave me stage passes to ACDC, and I met Bon Scott, and we had kind of a nice time for a few moments. It was not like a major relationship or anything, but we made out in the limo. I'll just say it.
Okay. That's good. What,
And by the way, I was not sober at that point in the game. I am now 25 years sober, so that kind of thing probably would never happen. But yeah.
That's awesome. Sticking with Bon, I mean, obviously his passing, a tragedy, but now in recovery, have you ever thought about him with respect to, had he not died and gotten sober, do you ever think of like where the band would have been?
Well, I mean, he was a brilliant singer, frontman. I think he would have had a really long career. It was just tragic.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was managing a band in Fort Wayne, like one of my first clients called Destin. And right after that happened, they wrote a song called Bye Bye Bon, which was really a great song and should have like probably been heard by the world. But yeah, it was just tragic all the way around.
Yeah. I was just thinking, last time I saw you was out in Los Angeles after Mötley Crüe's first final tour. I was just talking.
That's funny to say. First final tour.
The
How many final tours have we done now?
Quite a few. Yeah.
I think we're on 3, right? Or more, maybe? I don't know.
Something like that. I just, before we came on, I talked to my son, Mason, who's now bigger than I am. But when we were out there with you, I think he was like 8 or 9. And
yeah,
we often talk about you taking us to the Rainbow and to Mötley's old apartment and your apartment with Guns N' Roses. And I do want to get to that. But I'm interested in this too. Why did you leave Fort Wayne? I want to know the passion that you had. You had a dream, obviously, to do something bigger. Talk about your journey moving out to Los Angeles from Fort Wayne, what that was like.
I don't know. Since the time I was like really small, I like always thought that I would live in California. And, then I met Tom Petty and he said I look like a California girl. And, in my mind, I was going to like marry Tom Petty. And I like, I had two bands that I was working with, and never mind that I didn't really know anyone. And I was like, I'm going to go out there and shop these bands and make them famous. Um, and I met John Scott, who was a radio program guy through Tom Petty, and he was like one of the people that I knew when I moved out here, and a nurse who lived in Marina Del Rey named Wendy, who I stayed with for a month when I first came out here. I came out for a month and then I went back and saved money for a year and then I moved. But, I, you know, I just don't really do well in cold weather. And it was like, okay, well, you're a lot closer to New York. But, I figured if I was going to starve, I was going to starve in the sunshine. So that was the deciding factor. Yeah, and I'm still here. So that was, I don't know what, 1981. So how long is that now? It's a long time.
A while ago. Yeah, and
Yeah.
this is and this is all relative with respect to sobriety. Anybody that's a musician that wants to make it, an athlete that wants to make it, it seems there's a common theme of this perseverance, determination, the keep going, never quitting. Did you have that mindset when you were out there, like, this is what I'm going to do, and there was no plan B?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, there was no plan B, but I had other artistic um, ideas as well. It's like I've always been a writer, and I wanted to be a manager, but I had done some journalism when I was in Fort Wayne, and I also booked some concerts and things like that. So it wasn't just being a manager. It was like, be the best music business person I could be and a writer. And, one of my dreams was to write a book and do a television series, which I'm at the tail end of getting this um, TV series done. They've hired the writer and, you know, hopefully by next year we'll be talking about the series. So um,
Awesome.
it's a long road. I thought making records was hard and tedious. Oh my God, it's the TV business is way worse. It's 7 years I've been working on this now.
Holy cow. Well,
Yeah,
let's talk about your book for a second. Appetite for Destruction. Do you want to let's
dysfunction.
compare dysfunction?
Yeah,
Sorry. I was thinking
destruction
of
is the G and
the
R. Yeah,
album. Yeah, my bad. I got them confused.
yeah.
Uh, how long did that take to write, and how do you compare that with the television show you're working with?
Well, the book took about 7 years to write, but it wasn't like an everyday thing. And 3 of those years were editing and pictures and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was harder than I thought. Like I always go into things thinking, oh, this will take me a year, and then this, that, the other. I mean, it's blind optimism. That's what I would call it. You've written books, so but I think you got your books out a lot quicker than me. But yeah, it takes a long time.
The blind optimism is a good description of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but again, that goes back to that mindset of, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'll figure out a way to get it done, and you've obviously been successful at many things in that. Um, Let's I know you've been waiting for it, so here it comes. I'd like to start talking about how you got involved in the whole Mötley Crüe thing. I know you've told this story a million times. Is there something different that we can talk about in any of this stuff with Mötley Crüe today?
I don't know. I mean, I think I pretty much have said everything and wrote about it, but um, basically, Nicky came into my record store, and I started conversations with him there, and that led to you know a job consulting um, Alan Kaufman, who was Motley Crue's first manager, and I helped do their displays all over town, and you know shop their music to some record label people. We did a great window display when they played the Whiskey a Go Go, and I think that's what Tom Zutaut saw and went to that show. You know, it was like very early on in to me moving to LA, so my eyes were wide open, and I was just like loving everything that was going on. Indiana doesn't have that kind of music culture that existed on the Sunset Strip at that point in time, but it and it was going out of punk rock into what I believe Motley Crue sort of brought. There were other bands, of course, like Van Halen and um, Quiet Riot and things like that, but that whole glam metal scene sort of evolved around Motley Crue, I think, and I had a front row seat to watching that, and watching them like the cops take away punk rockers and the paddy wagon and stuff like that. It shows on the Sunset Strip because the window of my record store faced the Sunset Strip, so it's like I saw it all while I was working.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you, and you mentioned it with Nicky, and I've heard you describe this with him before, but with your business acumen is the word I'm going to use, or your business sense of seeing talent, being able to spot it, and wanting to get involved in it. Is that something that you saw in Nicky, and what specifically was it about that thing that he had that really enticed you to help him out, that you believed in him?
I think that Nicky, in the beginning, I wasn't sure if he was like brilliant or crazy, and it turns out he was a little of both. And it was a changing scene. I'd never seen guys in stiletto heels and um, the glam rock outfits, which, you know, to this day, I still love effeminate men. I'm not going to lie. And I found them all very amusing, and I kept seeing Nicky and Vince and Tommy walking up Clark Street, which is, the side street on Sunset that my record store was on, and then the Whiskey a Go Go was directly across from it. So I had a really great view out that picture window watching the whole scene develop. When I moved to Los Angeles, the first sort of bands I worked in the record store were like the Go-Go's and Oingo Boingo. So when Motley Crue hit, it was, a game changer. And a lot of the people I worked with in the store made fun of me because of my love for this new rock, but I just found it very stimulating and good. And Motley Crue had really good. I don't know if writing chops is the right thing, but their songs were commercial. And I think because I grew up in the Midwest, I had very commercial taste. Because if you went back to Fort Wayne, Indiana today, Doc West at the radio station would still be playing the same records he played when I left there. It's classic rock. And so I grew up around hit rock music. So that's what I compared everything to. And I'm kind of grateful for that, because I think if I would have grown up in LA, I maybe would not have been able to tell what would have been hit material, you know, because alternative music is hipper in LA than it is in Indiana, you know.
What was well, we can do two things here because I am interested about uh, your drinking escalation during this time. Were you starting to drink, more? Was it, do you think it was becoming a problem? When did that come into your story?
Um, well, I was a wild child in Indiana too, you know. It's like I got from a doctor in Indiana Quaaludes and Black Beauties every month, you know, on script, you know. So I didn't really question whether it was bad or not, because it was pharmaceutical. So, you know, it seemed okay. Not, you know, not to mention that, you know, 30 Quaaludes only lasted about 3 days, because when my friends found out that I got them, they all came around and we all did them, you know. And then we bought like Mexican Quaaludes, which were called Mandarexes back then too. Um, you know, I was kind of into Tanqueray and grapefruit in Indiana. I went to clubs when I was like 15. I mean, the drinking age in Indiana is 21. I had a fake ID and I did all that. I was a wild child, no question about it, and kind of a wake and bake pot smoker. I mean, pot was actually my drug of choice until I quit, you know, 25 years ago. I just took a 25-year cake, so I know exactly that it was 25 years ago that I quit. Also, I quit in 2000, so it makes it easy to like keep track of how many years
There
of
you go.
sobriety I have. But yeah, when I got to LA, there, you know, my parents were back in Indiana, so there wasn't really anybody monitoring me. So, you know, I kind of escalated, you know, the drinking and the partying, and um, you know, I did a little bit of coke with Motley Crue and stuff, but you know, I just like, I don't know, coke was just never my drug. You know, it's like I got a nosebleed, and that was kind of it for me, because you know my vanity came into play. Like, what? Nosebleed? No, you know. You know, I hung out at the Rainbow all the time, and I drank like Long Island iced teas. If you had two of those, you were usually barfing in the bathroom. You know, it's like straight
Yeah.
alcohol. So yeah, it was a pretty crazy time. You know.
Do you were you described yourself as a wild child back in Fort Wayne? Were you aware, like going out to LA, like when were you cognizant that this was probably not a good thing to do? Like when it was starting to be a bit of a problem, were you aware of that back then, early on?
Um, Not really. You know, I was pretty much focused on having a good time and music and art and all those things. And it wasn't until, you know, hangover started lasting 3 days, and, you know, I was wheezing from the smoking, because I not only smoked pot, I smoked cigarettes. You know, I was having a love affair with smoking on every level. And, you know, I got to the point of where it was hard to walk up hills and whatever. Like I felt like I had an iron lung, you know. And that's when I started questioning, well, maybe it's time to, like, you know, first in my mind, cut down and then quit, you know. I did this like sort of switch hitting game in my mind where I would like quit smoking cigarettes, and then I would like smoke a lot of pot, and then the other way around, you know, I would quit smoking pot and just smoke a lot of cigarettes, you know. And ultimately I had to quit pot and cigarettes on the same day, and I cried every day for 6 months. I mean, you know, it was like my friend, and,
Yeah.
you know, something I hid behind basically.
especially comically, but seriously, walking up Clark Street, that path up from the whiskey is
Oh
a
yeah,
little bit of
that's
a,
an incline for sure.
that's a grind, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Do
yeah.
you, anything else back with the Mötley stuff? I mean, do you want to talk about them securing their record deal and kind of what happened when you stopped working with them at all?
Uh, it was like when Doc McGee and Doug Thaler stepped in as manager. Um, the first manager was out, and I lost my job. I mean, it was basically as cut and dry as that.
Yeah.
My name was not on the guest list at Santa Monica Civic. It was like a different day. They still owe me $3,000, by the way. It's like I'll take that with interest now. But
I,
you
I've
know,
heard you say that before. That'd be a lot of money today, wouldn't it?
yeah, be
Yeah.
nice.
Well, and there seems to be, and I do want you to talk about Guns N' Roses and Poison and all this stuff because there's a theme in this, and it seems like since I've known you and read about you, it seems like you've been there at the beginning to support a lot of these awesome bands who I admire. I know you respect it as well, and then it didn't hit in the right way, but yet you would still pick yourself back up. You'd find the next one. All these people you've worked with. And I'm curious as to like what you've learned along the process.
I don't do handshake deals anymore. I wrap everything tightly in paper. But lawyers are another sort of thing you have to watch out for too. I mean, everything is
Yep.
kind of a tightrope walk. Um, I still haven't figured out the perfect formula. I'm gonna say. Um, I don't get taken advantage of as much as I used to, but I do still fall in love with potential. And sometimes I think that it's really about birthing that music so other people can enjoy it. But, I don't want to birth music at the point of going homeless myself. And that has been the case on a lot of scenarios where I almost lost my house or did lose my house in the case of Guns N' Roses. It's I don't know. In the words of David Geffen, if it were easy, everyone would do it. And it isn't easy. And if you go into music because you think it's an easy payday, I think you're in for a rude awakening. It's like you have to want to do it because you love the music and you want to get the music out there.
Yeah, it's kind of, I found that I can relate to that in my work with Racing for Recovery. You want to see people succeed. Being a counselor, you put everything you can into hoping that your person will then utilize that properly. And sometimes it's utilized productively and sometimes not. And I can hear that in some of the stories you've shared over the years with me on working with these guys.
Right.
You
I mean,
mentioned,
did I have a good time? Absolutely. Did I have a lot of soul crushing, why am I doing this moments? Yes, I had those too. I mean, my career has been a roller coaster ride and continues to be.
yeah.
But I don't sit in one place, and I keep going and I try to learn things. Like I'm trying to lean into AI right now because it's not going to go away. So got to figure out a way to utilize it and make it work for me. Um, and I don't know if you do chat, but it's like I love it. Like I'll write a bio and I'll put it into chat and I'll say make it more professional and it'll pump it up and perfect.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
think about how far we've come in technology. And I mean, like when I was managing Guns N' Roses, I got my first fax machine, one of those thermal ones with the round paper. And I was
Yeah.
standing in the apartment with Slash, and the first fax was coming over, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is going to like change our lives, you know. Prior to that, it was like we made the flyers. We went to Barbara's place and printed flyers. Slash and I would lay out BAM ads. We would drive to BAM and lay out the BAM ad. It's like it was a whole different day. Now you can just, press send and it's there, you know.
It's unbelievable. When you were talking about chat, Mark Weiss and I were discussing it the other day. He was saying, just type this in there and do whatever, and it's fascinating, but at the same time, it's almost like, God, is anything real anymore? You read stuff and you're like, is this the person that's doing this, or half of the person and half chat? It's just an interesting
The part that
time.
scares me is who owns it. You know what I mean? Ultimately, is it going to come back and it's like, oh, you did that on chat? Well, chat owns that. You know what I mean? It's like, this is the cynic in me talking. It's like the way it spits things out in seconds flat. I mean, my friend Iris Berry, who's a publisher and a good friend, it was like I had my first experiences with her, and she was like doing her own personal bio, and it knew things like she had a space between her front teeth. I'm like, how does it know that? You know what I mean? It's like it just like scans the internet for anything ever written. And then there's like all these other programs where I have a friend that's in Korea, and I wrote a poetry book that came out last year. He took one of my poems and put it into this AI thing and spit it out as a song, and it sounded like Katy Perry. So in my mind, I was like, okay, so if I put this out as a song, am I going to have to pay Katy Perry a royalty? You know what I mean? It's like scanning every song and he's like, well, you should do this with your poems and like put it out there and market your book like this. And I was just like, yeah, I don't know, because ultimately there's going to be some kind of ownership dispute, you know? And I think that will happen in the future. And, I just want to be skeptical of it, I guess, as a manager, you know? Like if it was a band that I manage's music underneath somebody singing, I'd be, hey, wait, that's our song, their song. So
Yeah, you had mentioned lawyers earlier, and I can hear an attorney coming in and starting to look at this, and that some of that stuff's scary because it could be your life that then chat is involved with, that somebody says is theirs, or it's an interesting time we're in, needless to say.
yeah, I don't think the legal dispute over AI content is over. It'll
Right.
probably get worse before it gets better, you know?
Agreed. Agreed. How? Let's talk about Guns N' Roses. You had mentioned staying in the apartment with Slash. I know you, Mason, and I have a picture with you in front of your old apartment. I think the swimming pool was in front of it.
Yeah.
What was it like working with them? I mean, they had a different vibe or whatever than a lot of the bands that you were previously working with. What was it like working with them?
Um, well, at that point in the game, it had gotten as glammy as it could get, you know? It was like, after Poison and like Pretty Boy Floyd and the copycat sort of um, glam bands. So out of nowhere comes this dangerous, full blown rock blues band, and people are like, whoa, um, it, you know, God, I don't even know what to say about Guns N' Roses anymore. It's like, they they keep going. They're like the Duracell rabbit. It just doesn't stop, and um, they're selling out arenas still. I mean, it's crazy. Is it the same band that I managed? No. I mean, that was raw intensity and almost punk rock, I would say. And, now they're older. I mean, they have sort of physical limitations. I don't think Axel could do that dance on his knees anymore. But uh, it's a great show. I saw it in Madison Square Garden a few years ago. Um, it's a very corporate machine now. It's. I mean, they will go down in history as one of the biggest, greatest rock and roll bands of all time. I'm sure.
Of course, I was fortunate. I saw the original lineup 3 times. They played the Toledo Sports Arena. Did you ever go to see anybody at the Toledo Sports Arena?
I don't know. Maybe I managed a band from Toledo called Ebenezer, so I was in Toledo a
Oh yeah,
lot.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Well, they played there on their first go around, and there was like 300 people there. I wasn't in the best condition of back then, but I was there, and it's that we talked about this earlier. I'm sure you saw in them right away, like, holy cow, this is something different. How did you present yourself to them to get them to buy into your greatness in the business to help them get where they eventually got?
Well, oddly, they came to me. I mean, Axel and
Wow.
Izzy called me when I was an agent at Silver Lining Entertainment and wanted me to book gigs for them. And they strolled in a few hours later with a tape that had a few things that ended up on Appetite, and I was blown out. I put them on a show with Striper and Black Sheep, and at that point in time, it was um, Hollywood Roses. It wasn't Guns N' Roses, but and Slash was in Black Sheep, so there was that slow mo moment where Axel and Slash shook hands and stuff at that show, um, and it ended up turning into Guns N' Roses from that point. I kind of went in and out of their career early on, and then when Slash was in the band, I missed that whole Tracy Guns period.
Mhm.
But when Slash was in, then I was interested and I wanted to manage them, and that's where it started.
Didn't you? I think we talked about this where they were supposed to, on the day they were going to sign with Geffen, Axel was up on top of the whiskey, kind of.
Yeah, he was sitting up there. He couldn't find his contact lenses, and he was, that's chapter 1 of my book, basically. We went out looking for him. We were hours late to sign the record deal, and yeah, there he was.
There he was on
Yeah.
top of the whiskey. Yeah,
I mean, every
right?
time I see that ladder on the back of the whiskey, I'm reminded of that.
Yeah.
And recently a truck drove into the back of the whiskey, and I was like, "Oh my God, is the ladder gone?" But it's still there.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Nice. Who have you seen there? When's the last time you were at the whiskey, and who'd you see?
Oh God, I was just there for Faster Pussycat 2 weeks ago. It was phenomenal.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the new Faster Pussycat with Sam Bam and Keratin as the Karen. Karen is how you pronounce his name. The new guitar players of Faster. It's slamming. It's it's and Tammy, since he's sober, is
Mhm.
uh, and he's lost a lot of weight, so it's he looks great. They sound great. They deliver. I mean, it's one of the bands that I worked in the past that I will actually go see with any regularity because, honestly, to go see Mötley Crüe, I just feel sad. They're like a mess compared to what they used to be in my mind. And, Guns N' Roses, yeah, sure, it's good, but it's not what I loved about Guns N' Roses, that raw intensity. That's not the same. But faster to me is like more exciting. It's like, in the early days, they kind of had good show, bad show, good show, bad show. But now they are consistently really, really good. And it packed out. And, I just want to say, Tammy, out of all the rock stars I've worked with, is one of the only guys that when he says he's going to do something, he does it. And he's always been very respectful of me. And I will always love him for that. It's
Wow.
like he shows me what true rock starism is like. I mean, Slash is always nice, and Steven. I just saw Steven at the whiskey too, like, a month ago, maybe a little more than a month now. But and he was good. Um, and he's sober. He's doing,
Yeah, I
yeah,
was just yeah, there's a common theme in that. You said Tammy's sober. I'm glad Steven's sober. I remember years ago, I don't know if you remember this, there was a possibility of me
yeah,
helping
yeah.
out
He was going
Steven.
in and out of sobriety. We were worried about him,
Yeah,
and you know, let's just face it. Sober is better. It's like,
100%.
and the way the world is now, the insanity of the world, I just don't even know how people function, like doing
Yeah.
drugs and alcohol. It's like you just have to watch what you're doing left and right. It's, I don't think I would be here, if I wasn't sober. It's tough.
Yeah, I can't imagine even us just talking about that mindset of what it was before. I can't. It's like a nightmare. And that's the gift I wish everybody could see who's currently using is what happens really when you stop and you give it some time and just allow sobriety to work for you, how good it really is. I mean, you just mentioned, faster pussycats better than they've ever been. Well, there's a couple of reasons why that is. And one is, Tammy's not using or drinking
Right.
anymore. I mean, that's right. It's not
Have you
rocket
seen
science,
them
right?
recently, or?
I haven't seen them since you had hooked me up with the art
Oh,
when
yeah.
I saw them years ago. I met Tammy in Toledo even before that once. He doesn't remember that, but it's been a long time.
Like
I'd
Sam
love to see him
Bam,
out
the
there.
the guitar player, he's the new Slash. I mean,
Wow.
he's incredible. He's also in Dorothy, so he's touring all the time. Like, I know he ended a tour with Dorothy and got on the plane at 7 a.m. to like make that gig with Faster Pussycat, and I saw him backstage, and he was like, I was like, yeah, I heard you like caught the plane at 7 a.m. And he's like, yeah, I'm really tired. He's like, I'm excited to sleep and I'm excited to be back here. I mean,
Absolutely.
he like,
Yeah.
he embodies that excitement of rock starism. But he's just an incredible player. And Kieran's very good as well. It's like, I'm a guitar band person, so that gets me excited.
Well, and you're talking about the younger, whatever. I saw you were at Yungblud show out there a
Oh my
couple days
God.
ago or a week
Let's talk
ago.
about that for a minute.
Yeah,
Jesus.
go ahead. I
Um,
haven't.
you haven't seen him?
The only thing, and I'm always honest with stuff, I didn't even know of him until he did the cover of Changes
Oh,
at
wow.
Sabbath's final show. And
Well, you're not alone
unbelievable.
in that. I mean, that Ozzy Osbourne concert, it was like I had bought my tickets for Youngblood before that concert, and the moment that concert happened, all his US dates sold out. So it's like
Wow.
a lot of people like you had just found out, but honestly, that was his fourth record. He's had four records,
Wow.
and
Yep.
he I saw his documentary too. It's like I become like this huge fan. I just, I
Right.
mean, it's like Youngblood is like the new standard of what rock should be. It's like he from moment one on stage, he was in perfect pitch. He was like energetic, like incredible frontman. And a lot of his followers are very young, so there's like this low hum of kids like roaring the whole time he's like on. I've only seen that like a handful of times, but because adults won't do that, but kids do it, you know. And I mean, I posted a clip on Instagram and Facebook of him like, you know, I think that was like his last song, but you can just see how nuts people are going. It was sold out for his show, you know. And he's a kid that, you know, tried everything. He did hip hop, he did, you know, all kinds of things. And this last album, which is called Idols, you know, he borrows from some of the best, you know, I'm not gonna lie. He's like, you know, you can hear Bowie and his stuff and a lot of different things, but it's a great record. I listen to it a lot, and you know, I wish I had found him, honestly. But my friend Grant Owen, who does We Found New Music in LA and, you know, hosts like 15 bands a week, and he gave Dominic, which is Yungblud's name, his first show at a school night in LA, and that led to his first deal, which I believe was with Geffen Records. But you know, so Dominic put him on the list, and I went with him. You know, and it was just incredible to watch. It's like, you know, I can imagine for Grant, it was like when I went to see Mötley Crüe at the Forum. You know, like, you know, I kind of cried when I saw the the backdrops that they had done and stuff that Nikki had talked about that whole time. But you know, I got to imagine that this is Youngblood's dream come true. You know, and he's going to be, trust me, the biggest rock star on the planet. You know,
Wow.
he'll never play the Palladium again. You know, I was lucky enough to go to that show, and you know, I'm sure it's going to be the Forum or someplace even bigger, the Coliseum, maybe. You know, next time. You know, so
Well, you just made that bold statement again, and it was kind of what I was asking about from the beginning: is seeing something at, and I don't want to say it's inception because you had said the kid's been doing this for a while, but he's finally getting a chance to shine, and he's utilizing that, and it's going to go, and good for him. That's what every hardworking person is striving for.
it's
I love
very
stories.
refined too. You know, it's like his whole image, his look, his. I mean, if you look at that Hello Heaven video, it was like I saw that before the album came out, and I was like, okay, I get it now. You know, it's like a 9 minute epic thing, and it's like, okay, rock is back. You know, um,
That's good.
he was really great, and I like went to see Finn Wolfhard recently, and he was great in like an alternative like rock thing. I mean, he's a great actor as well, but he kind of has like, I'm gonna say like a Radiohead, Dandy Warhol sort of sound about what he does, and he's brilliant. You know, I mean, I'd like to see more people get into what he's doing. You know, I mean, he's got like, I think 24, 22 million followers, but you
Wow.
know, people know him as like an actor, but you know, musically he's amazing as well. You know, and I think that Youngblood wants to do some acting as well. So you know, they're like the new triple threats in my mind. You know, but yeah.
I saw that the moment where Youngblood was with Ozzy, you know, at that final show, and you could just see Youngblood's like overwhelming appreciation for, you know, Ozzy as a human being, but kind of him mentoring him along the way a little bit. That was very touching to see.
Yeah, I heard that he was friends with Kelly for like a while, so you know, I think he was around the Osborne household a few times.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
yeah.
What talk we can't not do this show without talking about Poison a little bit. I want to here's a specific question with Poison. You were talking about Flyers earlier. Those guys outworked everybody out there with respect to those Flyers. Is that an accurate
Oh,
statement, getting
definitely.
their stuff out there?
They
Yeah.
were the glam slam king of noise. That was like what they called themselves, and they had a whole system of how they did their flyering, and it was pretty awesome to watch.
I love their work ethic. Brett's actually in town here on Sunday. I'll probably go see the show, but that work ethic again, I admire that. They went out there and just did it, put a lot of work into it, and they made it happen, and I admire that.
So he's touring as a solo act. I heard Poison was going back out. Are they going out? Or?
Yeah, I think next year, hopefully.
Yeah.
But he's still grinding away, on his own. I wonder how one question I always think of, I wonder how the other guys feel about that.
Well, I kind of know, but I probably shouldn't express it.
Yeah, no, let's not. I don't want to do that. No. Yeah, enough said. That's good. I did mention this to you earlier. You said you would. Did you have any questions for me at all? I've been grilling you all day here.
Well, so I haven't heard from you in a while. So what is going on with what kind of programs are you doing for sobriety and stuff now? Do you have like a facility, or what are you doing?
This is a good question. Yeah, I'm reflecting back on everything that I was talking to you about when we were sitting in the Rainbow, and basically it's happened. We got a 16,000 square foot building back in 2016. So it was, I was out in 2015 with you, and about 9 months later, my former hockey coach bought this building for us in hopes that I would be able to buy it back from him, which I did a couple years ago. But I've taken everything that's been in my mind, and now it's turned into a full-on caring business. And notice I use the word care first. We have 28 people that work here now, several mental health counselors, a lot of people who went through Racing for Recovery as clients are now working here. There's 2 gyms here. There's a plant-based kitchen. We do individual counseling, family counseling, mental health groups. I mean, we're doing it, and I feel like Poison and, Mötley Crüe. It's the same thing. I worked at this. I never gave up on it. I surrounded myself with people that could help me achieve what I wanted to do, and I'm grateful that we're here and just doing what we do. It's been great.
Congratulations. So people, do they live in-house, or how does that work?
We have, we started another nonprofit called Housing for Recovery, and we put our people in like these suites, if you will, across the street from our facility here in Toledo. So right now, I think we have about 60 people that are living with us right now, and we give them a place to live. We give them food and clothing and clinical professional help to heal from some of the traumatic things that they've gone through and help them build a balanced, sober lifestyle. And it's
well, that's what I liked about
awesome.
Your ideas. Like you were selling the concept of, get into your art and your craft, and, for you as an athlete or whatever, as opposed to, I don't know. I mean, I got sober through a 12-step thing, but I think I would have. And now there are a lot of 12-step programs that are like sort of art bent. I think if Bill W. was still alive, that he may have rewritten the script a little bit and probably would be somewhat more like what you're doing. It's like, it's one thing to get sober, but you need to be able to point that energy to something else, to take away from, well, like, a newcomer, like, to take away from, what am I going to do with that time that I spent smoking and enjoying my friends? It's like, you got to have somewhere to put it,
Yeah, that's, I've taken sports and music, which were vital to me as a kid. I utilized them even in my addiction, but definitely coming out of it. Sports and music have been my go-to thing. And the Racing for Recovery facility just is a big extension of my childhood bedroom. It's awesome out here. There's posters of musicians and guitars all over the place and athletic people, and people walk in our building and they're just like, holy cow, I've never seen anything like this. And I love it.
I
I'm
think
living
at the
out my
core of our
childhood.
being, we're always the
Yeah.
same as that 5-year-old inside, It's like I love the music, I was singing with Diana Ross into a hairbrush. I
Yeah.
wrote poetry and did art and wood blocking, and I've always loved writing and TV and movies. It's like I don't think you really change from your basic personality. It just, but a lot of times when we become adults, we just like let the dream go. And I just think that that's such a mistake. It's like you
Yeah.
got to keep that child alive somehow. I mean, I've moved on to therapy with a therapist that does like inner child work, and it's like really really helped me because I see that fearful like 5-year-old inside of like you know around for me it spins around personal relationships and things like that. But I've gotten a lot better in the last couple years, so
That's well, I may or may not ask you that. I will ask you this first, or just make a comment. You mentioned that the inner child, which that's a great focus for clinicians to work on, but the opposite of fear is excitement. And I go back to sports and music, and that for me was the excitement thing in a lot of fear I had as a kid, and a lot of those feelings they come back in early recovery. And I think when people don't really take a look at that part of themselves, that's when a choice to use happens, and they're back doing that same rinse, cycle, repeat thing. And people can recover, and they truly can enjoy being sober and living out every dream that they ever had, as long as you don't quit on it, right?
right. But I think a lot of the sober living houses, they, it's almost like big pharma. They kind of want to keep you
Yeah.
sick because then you come back.
Yeah,
But
not here.
yeah. Well, no, I know. I mean,
Yeah.
I see that you built this on something different, and that's why I do podcast with you, and that's why I support what you do. It's like
Yeah.
these big rehabs, and I don't know. I just see people in circles going in and out of these places. It's
Yeah, we won't mention a name, but I do want to bring this up because you're right. I didn't start this thing for money. I'm not doing it for money. And I remember when you and I talked years ago about a certain person's situation, and we were talking about the cost of how much they were paying just basically to be told to go to a traditional 12-step meeting. And I was just like, oh my God, there's so much more to this. And I remember saying, I'll do it for free. I'll do it for free. And you're like, Todd, you can't do that all the time. And
well, you don't survive if you do it for free. I mean, it's like what I do. Everybody wants free shit from me, and it's like it makes
yeah,
me angry because my rent isn't free. you know.
yeah,
And in
yeah,
LA, it's like a $10,000 month always. So it's like you can't do stuff for free, but at the same time, you can't do it to like make $1 million either.
yeah,
So
yeah. Well, you would, I, first of all, again, I really appreciate you coming on and doing this with me. It's good to talk to you on many levels. Tell people what else you have going on. You mentioned the television series you're doing, your book. What else are you doing, and how can people get a hold of you?
well, I still have. I manage bands. I have a band called Motherwind, who's from Wisconsin, that are doing quite well right now, and a guy named Jim Camacho is on my record label from Florida, who's doing pretty well. And I have Dark Spark Music, that's my record company, and I still consult, from anywhere from an hour or, as a manager 24/7. I do that as well. Um, I have darksparkmusic.com and I have vickyhamilton.com. All my information is pretty much there. I wrote a poetry book called Veiled Illusions, and it's kind of about, I mean, I've been writing poetry since I was like 10, so I figured I might as well put it in a book and put it out there. A lot of it's gnarly stuff about the record industry. but, yeah. And I've got 2 books that I'm writing right now that are, in different stages. And I don't know. I guess that's kind of it, I'm hoping we'll be in TV land soon. So.
Well, we need to, I'll talk to you off air about we'll get one of your bands to come out and play a show at our facility out here. We had, I don't know if you've seen these guys or heard of them, but we had the Van Halen tribute band Jump play out here.
Oh, cool.
A couple years ago. It was awesome. And I've always thought about having a band play on our roof, like the Beatles did back in the day, but I'll talk to you later about getting somebody to come out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Motherwing could do it. I mean, and they just went through Ohio too recently, but yeah, I'm sure they'll be going through there again. I went with them to Nashville and to New York City in July, and then they went through Ohio. I think the next run is down to Texas.
Well, let's put something together on that. That'd be good. Yeah. Well, I don't want to take up much of your time. I appreciate you a lot. We're going to put some of the those pictures that I took when we were out there together and stuff. We'll get those up on the podcast, and all your links and all that stuff that'll get up too. But thank you very much for coming on today.
No problem. I enjoyed it, and let me know when you air it. I'll share it.
All right.
All right, Todd.